Press play. He's the voice of the intersection of marketing, tech, and popular culture. Thinking is his commodity. DJ, data punk, stylish sock collector, and author of the book Disruptive Marketing. Jeffrey Cologne is your host of Disruptive FM, the marketing podcast for eccentric minds.
Friday. It's another episode of Disruptive FM, the marketing podcast for eccentric minds. I'm your host, Jeffrey Cologne, broadcasting from Advertising Week, New York, 2016. Coming to you from the heart of Manhattan. Hope you had a good week. A lot of fun for me. I'm actually recording this podcast at the tail end of Advertising Week, so looking at it in the rear view mirror as it's behind us now. And if you want to go back and listen to a couple of episodes prior, episode 55 and 56, I give a review of the sessions you should have attended. And of course, now that it's episode 57, I'll give you a review of the overall week and what I thought of it. So on this episode 57, we're going to talk about Advertising Week 2016, a week in review, at least what I got out of it. Also, voice search. Will it be mainstream in 5 years? Bing search evangelist Christy Olson and myself were presenting at Advertising Week, and we actually got on stage in front of many and gave a whole session on things are speeding up, and they're speeding up everywhere, including search, which means that behaviors are actually changing there, and we have to be ready for voice search as it continues to pick up the pace. And actually, Ad Week, the publication, covered our talk. I was really happy with that. So I'll read a little bit about that and what they reported. And finally, Spotify buys Soundcloud. I'm not surprised about this at all, but we'll talk a little bit of my speculative theory on why this makes sense for Spotify. And also, it's good for SoundCloud, who probably in the past couple of months, at least the last year, I think has been hemorrhaging money in the sense that, and of course I don't know this for certain, but I think they've been hemorrhaging money mainly because of the fact that they were losing a lot of users to Mixcloud. And I think they hit a growth spurt. But I think this purchase by Spotify is going to help them quite a bit. All that and more on episode 57 of the marketing podcast for eccentric minds, Disruptive FM. Hey, Disruptive FM listeners, make sure that you pick up a copy of the latest book that is the sponsor of my show, Disruptive Marketing: What Growth Hackers, Data Punks, and Other... what's the name of it again? I only wrote the book. Hey, Disruptive FM listeners, don't forget to pick up a copy of the book that is the sponsor of this show, Disruptive Marketing: What Growth Hackers, Data Punks, and Other Hybrid Thinkers Can Teach Us About Navigating the New Normal. It's out now on 3 formats: hardcover, which we like to call analog, Kindle, and audio. And of course, I narrated the book as well, so you get to hear my lovely voice. It's available now on Amazon Books, where all fine books are sold, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all independent booksellers. Check it out today. Also, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at Disruptive FM. You want to follow me personally, I'm at DJGEOFFE That's at DJ Jeffy, all on Twitter. Or you can follow along using the hashtag DisruptiveFM. Advertising Week 2016, so it's behind us now. And what a week it was. What was so interesting, I think, for me, is almost everything that I had written about in the last year was pretty much what was talked about at Advertising Week this year, which means that the week is almost behind the curve of where things should be going. I only saw a couple of sessions that I thought were really forward-thinking. I didn't see anything on corporate social responsibility. I didn't see much on company culture. I didn't see anything. I don't think anyone would ever present this unless it was me. On revenue not really being a worthy model in the world of business or marketing for that matter. There was one thing on forecasting the future. David Shing from AOL presented that. I did not get to attend that. David is actually going to be at the Seattle Interactive Conference, and I'm going to see him there. So I figured, because I was so busy running around doing a lot of things, and live streaming for Bing Ads, so definitely check that out if you didn't see the videos we created. Go to facebook.com/Bing Ads. But I was running around so much that I just couldn't attend everything that was happening. I mean, it is a really packed 4 days at the event. But I thought what was definitely missing was not many podcast sessions. Only saw one. I attended that. I didn't think it was that good. And a lot of case studies, which I get. You're going to have people do a lot of these case studies, and they're going to talk about all the things that their business does. But they're so boring. And I think the things that really struck a nerve with me was just the fact that almost everything is just this holistic mix of marketing tactics that we're so used to. There's nothing really left of center, nothing radically different. A lot of talk about virtual reality and augmented reality. No examples of anybody using it yet. At least they didn't show anything. Conversations about empowering women and inclusivity. That's very important. I attended a lot of those sessions. I feel like there needed to be more of those. I attended a couple sessions over at the Thomson Reuters building on monetization. Sort of snoozed through a lot of those. And a lot of stuff about marketing in the cognitive era, which I think was so fascinating about that, is it was so inhuman. It almost made you want to run as far away as possible and smash the machines. Yell, turn the machines off, turn the machines off. I mean, artificial intelligence, if it's not explained in a human manner, is going to be really scary to a lot of people. And I don't think that the sessions that I saw that talked about marketing using artificial intelligence were human whatsoever. It was almost like, hey, these machines are going to replace you, which goes back to a really good book that I'm reading right now from Martin Ford called Rise of the Robots. Definitely have to check that out if you haven't. So put that on your reading list. But also a lot of things about the current election, which I thought was contextually relevant and pretty good. How social media is being used there, how data is being used, or the lack of data by some candidates is being used. Also, how forecasting is really tough with this particular election because there's so much dark data that they can't get a hold of to figure out how things are actually going to occur. And the interesting thing I think I learned from that is this data as our savior personality that pervades marketing is such rubbish. It's such rubbish. Data's your savior. It's gonna do everything for you. There's a problem with that. There's a big problem with it. In fact, it was quite interesting that also this week, Facebook admitted that their video counts we're inflated. Look, right now, the digital advertising sector of the overall marketing industry isn't very trusted by a lot of brands and marketers. And there's a just reason for that. Inflation, click farms, a number of other things that might be happening that are persuading the numbers. Automation is wonderful in the respect that you can plug in the information that you need and you're going to always reach your budget. However, I think what's happening with a lot of this now on the digital side of the spectrum is we don't really know how things are performing. We don't really know if it has immediate impact. We don't even know if it has long-term impact. I feel right now, heading into the tail end of the year, because we're in Q4 of the calendar year, that there are a lot of marketers who are very skeptical of digital tools in the marketing mix. And rightfully so. I run a lot of programs across a variety of different platforms, and it always hits my numbers. If I say, hey, I want $3,000 spent here, it always spends $3,000 by the time the date hits. But it never really explains how that is enhanced. I feel like a lot of my traffic is poor. I feel like the clicks are not from real people, just to raise the engagement numbers. There's a lot of issues here. And of course, Facebook had said that they apologized for that. But when you inflate numbers just to inflate numbers, and we're not talking about business impact, we're not talking about how this helps with return on investment, when we're not talking about a variety of the things in which, it's supposed to help marketers understand how it's impacting their business or helping their business, and there's going to be a lot of skepticism moving forward. So it's going to be interesting, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this topic on a future episode. In fact, I might have to get a couple guests on again to talk about it. In terms of what customers are feeling about digital marketing, because forget about what marketers feel about digital marketing. Marketers are always going to be biased in that view. But customers, how do they feel on how they're advertised to on platforms like Facebook or Twitter? How do they feel about AdWords or Bing ads? How do they feel about display advertising? How do they feel about video pre-roll? Are the monetization of video that is going to continue to increase? A lot of it, I think they're really skeptical of. I think the only area, and I'm not saying this because I do a podcast, I really believe this, though the data, I don't think enough of it exists to confirm otherwise. I think podcasting is one of the few areas that does work and connect with listeners when hosts talk about their sponsors. And there's a couple reasons why. Because the majority of the big podcasts that I listen to and the podcasters in those that produce those shows tell me outright, because they're influencers themselves, hey, yes, I work with an advertising team, but I don't just take any old sponsor. There's a number of sponsors that I'll say, no way, not going to do the voiceover for that product. My fans won't like it. My listeners won't like it. It's not authentic. So in this area, I feel it's the one area that actually connects. And the session I did attend at Advertising Week, the one session on podcasting, which is absolutely ludicrous. You have 26% year-over-year growth in podcasting. You have one session, yet you almost devote every day sessions on video. And we don't even have the tracking that well on the video side. But they dedicate that because it's such a sexy medium. Which, by the way, is absolutely absurd because nobody, except for myself, was live streaming with a professional kit at Advertising Week. And what I mean by this is a lot of people are live streaming just holding their phone. But no one was using the Padcaster or the iOgrapher or professional microphones or a tripod. Listen, if you want to call yourself a marketer in 2016, almost 2017, and you're doing video and you're showing up with an expensive Steadicam, like, you're in the wrong business. Things have moved much more agile. I shot everything off my phone this week, but I used a tool called the Padcaster, which allows you to actually set up and shoot professionally. And you can shoot as one person. And it attracted a lot of attention. But I'm surprised I didn't see more of this at Advertising Week. Maybe I'm confusing the two. Advertising Week maybe isn't Consumer Electronics Showcase. But in any case, I was upset that they only had one podcast session, because I do think that is the one area where there is not only growth in listenership, but growth on the sponsors who sponsor podcasts that are relevant to particular audiences. So in an area that's working, I thought it was a little weird that Advertising Week didn't devote more time to the area of podcasting. And again, I'm not trying to say that I'm biased here, because I've been doing a podcast myself since 2012. But it is something that connects really well with people. People get into the hosts. They like listening to the shows. I get a lot of tweets directed at me from people from all over the world who say they really love this show and they love listening to it. And they always wonder where it is if I miss a week for some reason. So I know they're listening. And I've never had a paid sponsor because I'm not a huge podcast. I might get 100 streams or 100 downloads per week. But I have talked to people who are getting like 50,000 listens per episode. The big guns, so to speak. The big boys and girls. And they're getting good sponsorship money from a variety of different companies. And some of those bigger podcast personalities, they do have a say if they want to take the money or not, the sponsorship money or not, because they do want to be authentic to their audience. So that's an area that is much more native than the native advertising we hear about in the display world. And it's much more authentic than the influencer marketing we always hear about. Oh, that's another thing. Maybe 1 or 2 sessions on influencer marketing. So once again, I think it doesn't always, it's not in the area it should be. There should be more discussions around areas like customer relationship management, social listening, the 6 areas of social media, influencer marketing, and podcasting. I mean, these are areas that are really starting to work in the marketing world now. But it's because who sponsors a lot of the sessions, a lot of the bigger advertising companies. I don't think we get that in the agenda. So I guess that's my feedback for the week. Is I think it's missing some relevance in terms of some more forward-thinking sessions. But I learned a lot, and I will definitely be there again. I'm hoping to go to the event in London, Advertising Week London in April. We'll see if that happens. But if not, I'll definitely be there again in a year. I got to speak on 3 different panels. It was a lot of fun. I presented one for Microsoft and Bing Ads. I sat on a panel for Disrupting the Disruptors that was put on by The Shipyard and John Bond of Tomorrow. And I sat on a panel for brand innovators about megatrends that we have to watch for. So I did have a great time. It was a lot of fun. It was great to meet lots of people. There are a lot of really smart people in this industry still. A lot of creative people, a lot of people who are good in both art and science and math. So I do feel bullish about the agency world. I think agencies are starting to recreate themselves. And I feel bullish on some brands right now who are getting the plot. I don't feel that way toward all of them, but there are some that are really pushing the boundaries out there. So would love to hear your feedback if you attended Advertising Week, what you thought was good, what you thought was bad. Tweet using the hashtag DisruptiveFM. So voice search. This was a topic that we actually talked about quite a bit. Presented with Christy Olson, who was the Bing evangelist, and I get to work with her. And just a plug for another podcast that I do. If you like this podcast, you're going to like the one that Christy and I have been doing for a while. It's called Search Hacks, so you should go subscribe to it. I think we have 4 or 5 episodes, and we are going to start to produce more. Christy actually took some leave for a while, maternity leave for a while, which she just had her first child and a really awesome son by the name of Roy. So she had to take a little bit of time off, and that got us out of the groove, but she's back now, and we're really excited, and I told her, hey, let's make sure that we get on track again and record this podcast. But we presented on the Bing stage a session called Search Advertising in a Digital Nomadic Society. And I'll read the description to you, and then we got some really great press from Adweek, the publication. Not to be confused with Advertising Week, which is actually the organization that puts on the events. Adweek is a publication. So our session was, as customers move from one digital experience to the next while navigating experiences in the physical world, they're joining communities where influence and reputation are better barometers of success than revenue models. What does this mean for brands in the persuasion economy? A mix of anthropology, consumer behavior, pop culture, technology, and marketing. We spotlight how marketers can use trends such as nowcasting and search intent to model their relevance in this new normal. And out of that session, we talked a lot about voice search, because what we were basically setting up the discussion around is, hey everyone, we have gone through a number of different eras in the economy, and this is where we are now. And then as a result of that, there's a lot of technology that we can use that allows us to learn and unlearn quickly. And a lot of that is going to actually be disrupted in the next couple of years, because it's going to appeal to a new audience. So what we thought was really popular just 7 years ago is no longer as popular as it was, because it's moving already into these new areas. So for example, yes, while Facebook is still popular, we have Snapchat. And prior to that, we had MySpace. And prior to that, we had Friendster. So we're always sort of eclipsing with new experiences. And of course, what's making that happen? Moore's Law. So we noted that, and then we talked a lot about how search is this electricity that's all around us, that's changing how we actually go about our day-to-day lives. And then we got into the fact, or sort of brought it full circle, which is, because of all this change that we see on other platforms, we have to remember that we're also going to see change in areas like search, which I think many of us have become complacent on, because we still think that it's just something you type in a box. And we have statistics on how fast voice search is growing. And that ultimately is going to cause some disruption in this area, or in the area of search, I should say. So it was awesome that Adweek, the publication, did a little thing and talked about how voice search could become mainstream within the next 5 years, or so Bing search evangelists would have you believe. And I thought it was great we got the press on this, because I don't think a lot of people are talking about personal assistants. Siri, Alexa, Cortana, Google Now. And if we think about it, and one of the things that we don't have here is voice search is definitely relevant based on the context of where you're using it. So we talk a lot about context in search, and that's the context of what you actually want to search for. But we should also talk about the context of behavior now. Because while we have been talking about mobile technology for the last couple of years, we now have to say, okay, when are we typing into a device and when are we talking to that device? If we're driving a car, probably talking to that device. If we're in our house, we're probably talking to that device. If we're on a street corner in Manhattan, we're probably typing into that device. So it's quite interesting, and I'm really glad they used this quote in which I said, I never was comfortable speaking into my phone. But my girls, that's all they know how to do, because they don't know how to type yet. They're 4 and 6, but they can talk. So I think many of these things, the adoption will actually take off because of the next generation. So again, when you think of things moving forward as a human being in this world, don't think that just because you don't use it, it's not going to take off and be used by others. We are in a world where people can use a variety of means necessary, and your user habits definitely are not going to be everyone's users' habits, but we shouldn't displace and think that certain habits are not going to take off. Because I think one of the things that's interesting here is if voice search does take off, it makes the search game interesting in terms of who gets involved with it. Because I don't think it'll be just a 2-trick pony or a 2-pony race with voice enablement. I think it becomes almost like a 6-horse race where you have a variety of different tech companies that really want to be involved in the new behavior. Speaking of new behavior, we might have to get used to here. Spotify has bought Soundcloud this past week. What a big week to do it. So Spotify is moving into owning a technology that allows for original recordings to be hosted and shared. And there's 2 reasons why I think this makes sense and why Spotify went after this. Well, actually, 3 reasons, but the first, the price tag. SoundCloud definitely having monetization issues, hasn't broken even. I think the price tag was good for Spotify. So they moved in because it was the right time. Sometimes it's good to scoop things up before they really fall toward the bottom, and then it becomes there's a number of players that want those platforms because they're affordable. So I think price-wise, it was good for Spotify. The second reason, Spotify wants to start to own a lot more original content. They want to be the Netflix for the music industry. Because if you think about it right now, they're streaming music that they don't own the rights to. They're licensing the rights to that music. So I think they want to get into an area, and this is a niche area, of course, but they want to get into an area where they actually create their own content. Whether they're using artists to do that already have label deals, or signing new artists outright through their platform. Why not? You should constantly be rethinking business models all the time to stay ahead. So this is one of the other reasons I think Spotify is doing that. The third reason, though, is Spotify does not allow, when you make a playlist, the mixing of music. So if we think about, you can do a mix on Mixcloud, and that works really well for specific dance music formats, which people like to listen to as continuous mixes. Hip-hop is another genre. People like to listen to it in a continuous mix. You can't do that on Spotify when you make playlists, but with SoundCloud and that integration, that will be possible now. I think that's another reason they wanted to go after that. So that's 3 reasons right there, which I said there would be 3 reasons, but I actually, while I was saying this, I thought of a 4th. And that is, as a podcaster, I have a SoundCloud premium account because the analytics are very, very good when it comes to the premium account. And I think they want those analytics rolled into Spotify. This might be the 4th reason why. To give a better indication of geographically where things are being played, so they can offer that as a service to labels and artists who need that information. That's very, very important moving forward, especially as they put more advertising on the platform. They can use a lot of those analytics. I also think they will have a whole section for podcasting moving forward. Remember, SoundCloud is also a competitor to services like iHeartMedia, which has podcasts. It is a competitor to Apple, which has podcasts. It is a competitor to Google Play Music, which now has podcasts. So I think that's another reason, because they will use that technology. They don't have it integrated into Spotify right now. You can't go to Spotify and hit a button which says record your podcast here. No, you have to go to another platform to do that. So if they integrate that in, it'll be very easy for lots of people to become almost like amateur podcasters right on that platform. Now, again, this is all speculative theory, which we love to do on this show of mine. But I think this is the reason why they're doing it. This is where the future's going. There are more creators and less licensing from bigger labels. Because if we think about how YouTube really blew up, it wasn't because people were posting copywritten material from big movie houses or TV shows. No, they were posting original content. Some of it was really bad, but some of the stuff that was really, really good took off. And I think that's really what Spotify wants to do here by integrating SoundCloud into its platform. Start to do some original content. They can own the rights to it. They have more promotional control. They can get their analytics platform, and they can offer podcasting and help spread that around, as well as offer the ability to mix seamlessly moving forward. So how that integrates for right now, it remains to be seen, but I could see down the line, if you're logging into SoundCloud right now, down the line, maybe a year from now, that won't exist. I think it'll all be integrated within the Spotify dashboard. So curious for your thoughts, what you think about this happening. It's a big one. Not enough press actually covered or talked about it, but I think there was discussions on Twitter taking over Spotify. I think if I'm not mistaken, Twitter, I think, invested a minority stake in SoundCloud. So they may benefit from the sale of this because they'll get some return on investment for it. I thought it would be interesting if they actually owned that outright, because there would be much more audio pumped into Twitter, which I think it's lacking audio direction. But I think it's good for both SoundCloud users and Spotify users. And of course, like everything in the modern business world, it remains to be seen how this will end up. Hope you enjoyed episode 57. Next week, I'm back in Seattle. In fact, I'm back in Seattle moving forward for quite some time. I'm not traveling for a period of time, which is actually good. I traveled all over in 2016, and we're getting to the tail end of it now, and I only have 2 more trips planned. They're big ones, but they're short ones for me. So if you are at PubCon this year in Las Vegas, come see me speak. I'm speaking on Wednesday, the 12th of October at 3:30 p.m. on the concept of producerism. And then I am at the Bandwidth Conference in Palm Springs, California at the Ace Hotel. I believe that's November 13th through the 15th. But check all the details on my website, jeffreycolon.net. That's GEOFFREYCOLON.net. It has all the information on my book, where I am speaking, and links to all of my social media properties. Also, I do a regular contribution to Branding Strategy Insider. So check out those articles once a week, usually released on Wednesdays. Got some submissions coming up for Entrepreneur and Forbes, and I'm guest on a number of podcasts as well. So I should put a list of those, or at least put some links out where you can hear me on as a guest on a number of different podcasts. I just did a guest segment on School for Startup Radio with Jim Beach. A lot of fun. Hope you take a listen to that. We'll see you back in Seattle. Until next episode, we'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to an episode of Disruptive FM, the marketing podcast for eccentric minds. Remember to subscribe to the show on iTunes. Purchase a copy of Jeffrey's latest book, Disruptive Marketing, on Kindle, hardcover and audio. Signing off from the city of Seattle. Press pause.